Hello, I'm Martine Brisson. Welcome. And today I'll speak about forgiveness, a bit of a heavy topic. So maybe there's some people that you need to forgive, maybe a parent, a sibling, a boss, a colleague, an ex-partner, or even yourself. It's important to forgive because forgiveness liberates you. Now, Cindy Banks in Missing Link wrote that forgiveness releases you from mental anguish and pain and all the horrible negative feelings an unforgiving mind experience. When you learn to forgive, you see with clarity the ignorance and the innocence of those who trespass upon us. And that's from Missing Link, nice little book, yeah, from Cindy Banks. So I would just want to explain what I mean by forgiveness because it might be slightly different from the forgiveness that you think about. So for me, forgiveness doesn't mean that it's okay. It doesn't mean that you forget. It doesn't mean that you tell the person that you have forgive them. Because some people think that if you forgive them, you have forgotten and they might hurt you again. And that we don't want that. So you don't have to tell anybody that you're forgiven. You do that for yourself, really. When you forgive someone, also doesn't mean that you let that person back in, because maybe that person has no remorse, right? So you don't have to let that person back in your life, right? Um, but what it does is that it liberates you. I often use the analogy of no in comics they always show a prisoner with a big cannonball attached to their legs. So when you forgive, what it does is that you cut the cannonball so you can go forward in your life without having that cannonball about you, and you forgive for yourself, not for the other person, because maybe the other person has no remorse whatsoever, right? Maybe the other person that you need to forgive is dead. So, or maybe it's not safe now to talk to that other person as well. So, what you do is you do it for yourself. It stops your own suffering. Because when you realize that people act from their own level of consciousness, and they will act from that level of consciousness, the way they act, the way they think, the way they talk, it makes sense to them at that particular moment. And I'm pretty sure there may be example in your life and when you were angry and you said something that maybe you should have said. Um, it happens all the time. Sometimes we, or maybe we hurt someone with a good intention as it backfires. So maybe it's the same thing for the other person. So if you do your, if you're the one who made a mistake, you don't have to beat yourself up for the rest of your life either, right? You can learn to forgive yourself, to let that go. You learn something from that experience, and from then, and from that you can move on in your life. You don't have to live in guilt and in shame for the rest of your life. You can, oh, I learned something, or and then from now on you have a higher level of consciousness, and obviously you're going to act differently from now on. But shame yourself to have this guilt, you just take away your own happiness and doesn't change the past whatsoever. So when you forgive, well, it stops the suffering. That's the that's for one. um and it has also an impact on the body. Has an impact on the body because when you have all this resentment, it brings about all the stress hormone also in your body. creates anxiety and can even lead to depression. So when you learn to forgive, it has an impact on your body. You're more hopeful, more optimism, um, happiness, right? And like I said, an impact on the body, because when you have all this resentment in the anger, it has an impact on the blood pressure. Um, it improves your mental health as well when you learn to forgive. It diminishes the anxiety, it lowers your chance of depression. So, all kinds of good stuff happens when you learn to forgive. And another thing, when you have resentment towards someone, that person has power over you. Well, each time you think about that event with that person, first of all, it takes real estate in your head, right? And that person in your head just has to say boo, and you just dance, right? You still, yeah, you're still attached to that person in a sense. So you don't want that person to have that much power over you. And again, for your mental health, and you don't want that person to have all that real estate in your head. You deserve to be happy and to move forward in life. You don't do that for the other person. You don't do that for the other person. Like I said, you don't never have to tell that other person that you forgive them. Do it for yourself, for your home happiness and well-being. And that's all I had time to tell you today. If you want to work on forgiveness, that's one of the things that I work with my clients. And on that, well, I guess I will see you next week. Cheers.